You know that feeling like there's some kind of secret magic hidden just beneath the surface of the world? Well, you're right, there is. And today, we're going to pull back that curtain because this magic has a name: science. So, to guide us on this little adventure, we're going to follow a day in the life of a super curious explorer named Kiko. She's got this amazing talent for noticing all the little things that, well, they end up revealing the biggest secrets of our universe. So let's go. Let's join her and see the world through her eyes. All right, so our journey kicks off as Kiko wakes up and looks out at her garden, just buzzing with life. And she starts to wonder, what really makes these quiet, still plants so different from all the busy little animals? And that question right there leads us to our very first secret, the actual building blocks of life itself. So everything that's alive, from the tallest tree you can imagine to the tiniest little bug, is made of cells. But here's the thing. In complex life, these cells don't just work alone. Nope, they team up. They form what we call tissues, where every cell has a super specialized job. Think of them like these perfectly coordinated tiny little work crews, building something absolutely magnificent. And this is where it gets really fascinating. Because even though plants and animals are both built from these tissues, their blueprints completely different. Plants, they're stationary, right? So they need really strong supportive tissues. And get this, a lot of those tissues are actually made of dead cells that give them a rigid structure. Animals, on the other hand, we're always on the move, so our tissues are mostly living, just humming with energy to power all that motion. Check this out. This slide basically reveals a plant's secret toolkit. Right at its tips, it's got these little growth engines called meristematic tissues, always pushing out and growing. And it even has its own internal plumbing system, the xylem and phloem, to move water and food all the way from the roots up to the leaves. It's just this beautiful, efficient system, perfectly designed for a life lived in one spot. So as Kiko is watching her garden, a ripe berry just drops from a bush. Simple enough. But then she looks up and she sees the faint daytime moon, and a question just sparks in her mind. Why did that berry fall down while the moon just stays floating up there? You know what's cool? This is the exact same kind of question that, as the story goes, Isaac Newton asked himself when he saw an apple fall. He had this brilliant idea that the force pulling the apple to the ground might just be the very same force that's keeping the moon in orbit around the Earth. It was a totally revolutionary idea at the time. And this law reveals a fundamental truth about everything. Gravity isn't just an Earth thing. It's a universe thing. Every single object with mass, you, me, this planet, the sun, is gently pulling on every other object. The more massive the objects are, the stronger the pull. It's like this invisible string that holds the entire cosmos together. Now, this brings us to something people mix up all the time, the difference between mass and weight. Okay, so your mass is basically the amount of stuff you're made of. And that number, it never, ever changes no matter where you go in the universe. But your weight, well, that's just the force of gravity pulling on your mass. And since gravity is different in different places, your weight can totally change. Take the moon, for example. The pull of gravity there is only about 1/6 as strong as it is here on Earth. So while your mass would be exactly the same, you would weigh only a fraction of what you do right now. And that's the secret behind those incredible, slow-motion floating leaps you see the astronauts take. All right, so later in the day, Kiko hikes to a valley, and she's feeling a little adventurous, so she lets out a big hello. And then a moment later, a faint hello comes right back at her from across the canyon. So what just happened? She didn't see anything, but she definitely heard something return. Okay, here's the secret. Sound isn't a thing, it's an event. It's a vibration, a ripple of energy that travels through a medium, like air or water or even solid rock. And without a medium to carry it, there's just nothing, no sound. That's why deep space is completely, totally silent. This slide shows us exactly how that little journey happens. When Kiko shouts, her vocal cords vibrate. They push air molecules together, creating a little high-pressure area called a compression, and then they pull back, leaving a low-pressure area called a rarefaction. This chain reaction of pushing and pulling, well, that's the sound wave. It's kind of like sending a pulse down a slinky. And that wave travels at totally different speeds depending on its path. Sound moves way, way faster through denser stuff like water and steel than it does through the air. It's because the particles are just packed closer together, so the vibration gets passed along much more quickly from one to the next. So what Kiko heard was an echo. The sound wave she made traveled all the way across the valley, hit the canyon wall, and then bounced right back to her, just like light bouncing off a mirror. The thing is, our brains need a tiny bit of a delay to tell the original sound and the reflected sound apart. And that's why to hear a really clear echo, the wall or cliff has to be at least that specific distance away. So as the day winds down, Kiko sits down for a meal of rice and fish. And she starts thinking about where her food actually came from. And this brings us to our final piece of hidden magic for the day, the incredible science that's right there on her plate. You know, it's easy to forget, but getting food to our tables is a huge scientific process. It all starts with improving the crops themselves through really careful breeding. Then, it's all about managing their growth with just the right amount of nutrients and water. And finally, you have to protect them from all the weeds and pests that want a free meal too. And this is just a fantastic example of how clever that science can be. Instead of just farming one type of fish, a composite fish culture system puts a bunch of different species together in the same pond. And each type has a different diet. Some eat at the surface, some in the middle, others at the bottom. They don't compete with each other, so all of the pond's resources get used, which means you can create way more food in a really sustainable way. It's genius. So Kiko's day of exploration is over, but all these amazing connections she's found between the garden, the sky, the valley, and her dinner plate, they're just beginning to sink in. And that's the real magic, isn't it? Biology, physics, agriculture, these aren't just separate subjects in a textbook. They are the invisible threads that weave our entire world together. The same laws that make a berry fall are the ones that keep the moon in the sky, and understanding the tiny tissues in a plant helps us feed billions of people. It is all one big, beautiful, connected story. Kiko's journey shows us that science isn't just for labs or classrooms. It's everywhere, just waiting for us in the simplest observations. So if all of this magic can be found in a single day, just imagine what wonders you'll discover tomorrow. Keep looking, and never ever stop asking why.